Hello, I'm Tyler. Speaking about the healthcare bill, should the healthcare reform bill passed this year be repealed? If so, should the healthcare reform bill be passed?
Should any healthcare?
Should any healthcare reform bill be passed?
It's a great segue. So I'll go back to what I say. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. If you're a constitutional nerd like myself, and you don't want to raise your hand on that, that's fine. I didn't either in school. Go to the Constitution, go to Article 1, Section 8, and find me, or find for yourself, maybe it's a great class experiment, where the Congress and the President have the authority in the Constitution to require someone purchase a private product, or that a business provides something specific that's private, meaning private health insurance. It's not there. It's unconstitutional. In fact, over 20 attorneys generals from across the state filed a lawsuit against the federal government challenging it, and just last week a federal appeals court judge let that suit go forward. So it's going to be, someday it's going to be litigated in the Supreme Court to determine whether or not Congress had the power to pass the bill in the first place. I don't believe they do. But let's take that constitutional argument to the side, which is the reason to vote against it. But just on the substance of the bill, I would not have voted for it. In fact, back in 2006, there was a similar bill here in Massachusetts. 2 legislators out of the 200 voted against that bill. One's here. And I voted against it because it did nothing on the cost side of health care. Not from the ideological points. On the ideological side, it's not right to mandate that people purchase something. It's not right for government to tell an employer that they have to provide something. That's the free market. It should take care of itself. But on the issue of cost side, no cost side reform. You say you're reforming healthcare and all you're doing is forcing people to buy a limited number of products and forcing employers to provide it. Congress did nothing on tort reform. Does everybody know what tort reform is? The ability to keep lawsuits down, to get rid of frivolous suits, to end the practice of defensive medicine. This is a big difference between myself and my opponent. We debated on Friday night on Dan Ray about healthcare, and the issue of tort reform came up. I'm in favor of tort reform. It will reduce healthcare costs. My opponent has a very different view. He said he wasn't in favor of it. Doesn't make one right, one wrong, but it's a big difference between us. I think tort reform is about 10 to 13% of the cost of healthcare. Congress did nothing on tort reform. We need to do things with medical records, reducing the administrative burdens on doctors, allowing pre-existing conditions to be covered, allowing parents to keep their kids having on their policies for longer. There's some good things about the bill, and there's some really bad things about the bill. We should repeal it. It's unconstitutional. We should repeal it because it's bad policy, but Congress should reform some of the parts to get the cost of health care down, which will not only increase access to health care, which we all want to do, but it'll also help create jobs.
Thank you. Number 10.
My second favorite question. The question was immigration reform. That's when Congress went home 2 weeks ago. They did nothing on immigration. They went home and.
It's fair. I apologize, but those are the soccer players that are being dismissed.
So there's 5 things we need to do on immigration reform. First of all, we need to secure the border, really secure the border with an actual fence, with more border guard agents, and the use of National Guard troops. I think the American people, Democrat or Republican, agree with that, but it's not getting done. The second thing we need to do is to make sure employers aren't taking advantage of the illegal immigrants. And in many cases that's happening, and there's very lax enforcement of our labor laws regarding the use of immigrant labor. The third thing we need to do is something that I've been doing here in Massachusetts, is we need to make sure that illegal immigrants never get access to social benefits, whether that means welfare, unemployment, workers' compensation. Illegal immigrants are in many cases in the same lines as American citizens, and that's not wrong. We simply can't afford it anyway. The fourth thing we need to do is when there's an illegal immigrant come into contact with the criminal justice system, we need to deal with that. Governor Patrick in Massachusetts changed the policy of Governor Romney, which allowed the state police to detain an illegal immigrant when they came across them during a criminal investigation. Governor Patrick doesn't allow the state police to do that anymore, and we need to get back into that. And the fifth thing, which doesn't get talked about much, but it's just as important as the other 4, is we need to reform the way people can come to the United States, either to become an American citizen or to work here temporarily. The system is broken. And think about it. If you're an illegal immigrant, well, let me say it like this. If you're in a foreign country and the other country is across the street, and you're saying, if I go across the street, I can provide a better life for my family. There's more opportunities for me to take care of my future generations. There's more opportunities to be safe, to be free, to enjoy, in this case, the American dream. And you have two choices. You have one choice that says you can fill out these papers and you can wait 6 years to get an answer. Or you can find a way to get there. And if you get a job, nobody's going to enforce those laws. If you get on a social entitlement program, nobody's going to check to see if you're here legally. If you get involved with the criminal justice system, nobody's going to do anything about it. A lot of us would make the decision to better our family and take that risk. And so we need to reform the way we determine whether or not someone should be an American citizen. And we really need to increase the amount of legal immigrant workers that can come here, because we need the workers. People want to come here. They want to take advantage of the American dream. And we do all those things. We reform all those parts of it, not just one, and not just have a lot of political rhetoric on both sides. Everybody's better off at the end of the day.
I think number 11. What's my number 11?
Number 11 is playing soccer.
Number 11 might be playing soccer. All right. Who wants to read it for me? Here, Dan. Do the bottom one there.
Bottom one? What is the proper role of the federal government in education? Should No Child Left Behind be reformed? If so, how?